Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. I'm very much looking forward to this one. I'm doing a little bit of a Leeds United versus Leicester City preview. It's going to be quite fun. I'm doing it now because I am, in fact, heading over to Leeds to watch the match tomorrow. So I don't know if I'll be able to publish it then. How are we feeling about it? Because I'm a little bit spooked. Because, I don't know. I'm excited. I think we'll do quite well. But I ultimately think that we could have some pretty big problems because Leicester are very good at being Leicester. We're very good at being us. We have, I think, off the top of my head, the best defence in the Championship at the moment in terms of chances conceded. Sorry, I'm a bit congested. That's always fun. We are equal with Leicester on goals conceded, but I'll get into that a little bit later because I have quite the list of notes for this one. I've got something like 45 of my little banner things. So I'm going to dive into those in a minute. But yeah, how are we all feeling? Afternoon all, looking forward to getting 3 more points. I am also looking forward to getting 3 more points, Mark, and I quite desperately hope it happens because off the top of my head, the last time we lost whilst I was in the ground for a match was the 4-2 at home against Scum. Fairly recently. But hopefully we don't fall to that again this time. That'd be very nice. What do we think? Do we think about background music? I'm thinking maybe a little bit of background music, but I'm not 100% sure. But in the stream, I'm going to run through the team news. I'm going to run through how Leicester play. I'm going to run through what we need to do and some predictions for the match. But first, let me know your predictions. Whether that is after the streams happened on the VOD, just chuck them down below. Whether that is right now, you're in the chat. That'll be much appreciated. I'll whack them up on screen, have a bit of a discussion with you, and hopefully everything can go fantastically well. We beat Chelsea, just saying, Joe. I think I agree with that. I'd quite like us to beat Chelsea. I think that's a match that we could fairly feasibly win without too much of an issue. Because look at Chelsea right now. They're wobbly at best, no matter who they play against. And I think we can put on a little bit of pressure and cause them some pretty big problems. But we've got Leicester to deal with first. And the team news from this one was pretty big. It was a little bit different to what I was expecting as well. Pascal Struiker's out. I expected him to be out for a little bit longer, but apparently he is down as being not too far away, which is a good sign. I think it's his adductor that's injured. He's been out for about 2 months now. But we saw a picture of him the other day in training in the gym with a bunch of Leeds players around him. He said he's on the way back, which is always very promising. It shows that he's potentially coming back. That would be wonderful. Someone that is definitely out for this week as well is Sam Byram. He is meant to be training next week, but he's not a chance to get back, which is, it could be a little bit more of a problem. But the fact that he's still here is a very, very good thing. Afternoon, Carol. How's it going? You're in the Maldives. I am jealous and I hate you. But to be fair, that means you don't get to be in Elland Road tomorrow. So, oh dear, we're going to lose now, aren't we, after I've said that? And what up, baby zebra? Hope things are all good. In addition to Stroke and Byram, we have a little bit of positive news. Carl Darlow is currently in training, which is definitely an improvement over the position he was in. He had a, I think, broken finger, was completely out of the squad, building his way back into fitness, and should ideally be okay as we go on. But he needs a bit of match sharpness. That might mean some 21s minutes. It might mean time behind the scenes, playing sort of friendly matches, stuff like that. But I guess we'll have to find out. Rest of the fitness stuff is Jayden Anthony is in training and is completely available. This is a massive step forward because it gives us a little bit more flexibility out in those wide positions. As I'll go into a little bit later, I think subs will be the most important thing that we can do in this match. And the bit that surprised me the most, and I want to know what chat thinks on this one, is Bamford hasn't been ruled out. Reportedly, he's touch and go. So press conference was on Wednesday. Recording this and streaming this on Thursday. The match is on Friday. Apparently, Bamford has been in Daniel Farke's ear being like, I think I can play. And I think it will come down to a last-minute fitness test as to whether or not you see Patrick Bamford. I do think that Patrick Bamford, if he does make it, will be a bench option rather than in the first 11, just because you want to keep him fit. You want to keep him healthy. Hi, JB in Leeds World. Bam Bam as sub ain't bad, or does he start? I for fitness reasons, would say that he almost certainly wouldn't start, in my opinion. We're at the stage of the season where every single match still comes down to 3 points. And as much as 3 points against Leicester might, on the face of it, look like more than 3 points against a Rotherham or a Plymouth or a Swansea, realistically, they all add up the same on the table at the end of the season. And admittedly, it would take points off Leicester, but of the teams around us that we need to take points off, Leicester isn't the one that we need to be paying all of our attention to. That is Southampton, because we have them on the last day of the season. That is Ipswich, and we did the job against Ipswich perfectly well. And we've done really well against all of the teams that are up amongst it with us, except for Southampton. So if we can beat Leicester, that's good. But I don't think this is the match where you risk a player, because you really do not need to. I think we'll be okay if we don't force Patrick Bamford back to fitness, because the reason he spent so long on the sidelines recently is because we kept saying time and time and time again, or at least Bielsa did and Marsh did, hey, you're half fit, come back in. Farke mind games, I'm on the fence with this one, I think. Farke mind games could be at work, but I'm more of the opinion that we don't really need the mind games. If we are at the point where we're resorting to mind games, I think there are slightly better things that we can do and better things that we can focus on. And before I dive into my predicted lineup, I'm going to talk about Acom Tony's 1919's statement of Archie scoring the winning goal is my dream. I've mentioned similar on a stream recently, and I've got a very slightly different dream. If it does go down to the last day, us against Southampton, and we need a winner, the absolute dream scenario, the perfect thing to happen here is Archie Gray scores a last-minute winner for Leeds. As his first goal in a Leeds United kit, getting us into the Premier League would be spectacular. And that is the dream. That would be absolutely perfect if we can make that happen. We are too good at being conspiracy theorists as Leeds fans. We need to keep that in mind. But I'm going to have a very quick dive into my predicted lineup for the match. Let me know what you think in the comments and in the chat. I've gone with Illan Meslier. That one makes complete sense because Illan Meslier is a very good, very reliable goalkeeper. You could see that at the end of our most recent match, where he clearly, based on how the rest of the match had gone, should not have been expecting shots to come his direction. And when they did, he dealt with them. Another clean sheet. He's conceded 1 in the last 8 matches, and whilst they haven't had many shots on target against him, they have had shots on target, and he's dealt with them really effectively. In front of that, I've gone with Gray, Rodon, Ampadu, Firpo. I don't see any particular need to change this. At centre-back, we've not had any adjustments in the options that we've got there. Maybe there's a conversation for Connor Roberts over Junior Firpo, because Roberts can play on both sides. But I've gone with Junior Firpo just because he's in a nice run of matches. It doesn't feel like there's a particular need to swap him out. Admittedly, defensively, he is never 100% the most solid player that we've got. But he's there and he does a job, and I trust him enough to be consistent in that, especially when he has protection from the midfield line, which is Ilya Groif, Glenn Kamara. Glenn Kamara, you've got that roaming player that will happily hit other teams on the counter. From corners, for example, it's always him and Crescencio Somerville on the edge of the box waiting to spring an attack. And then you've got Ilya Groif, who will do all of the running you could ever ask from any footballer and not complain and get all the important slide tackles in. And I just think he's sort of a perfect midfielder. Ideal protection for the likes of Firpo, who occasionally will have an issue in this kind of match, but I think he'll deal with it fairly well. In front of them, I've gone unchanged. Somerville, Ruter, and Nonto. This just sort of makes sense to me. I trust them to score goals. I trust them to create chances. And against what is the second best defence in the division, I will get into in a little bit more detail later on why I think this is the ideal 3 to go behind Joe Peru, because Patrick Bamford isn't fully fit yet. If he was fully fit, we'd have a little bit more of a conversation, but the fact that he's on the fence about maybe being able to come back, I don't hugely want to make any risks with Patrick Bamford's health, and Peru will do a job. So, the chat believes that they are hiding behind the sofa for the rest of the season. I'm a gigantic chicken now after giving it large since early January. This is why you keep giving it large. This is where things sort of start rolling in. This is where things get better. This is where you can be like, yeah, I was right that time. I will be right again. I will continue to get it right because we are going up top of the league. That was very optimistic, but I'm going to fully commit to it, because if I don't, I might trick myself into thinking that we're in trouble, and that's a spiral I don't want to enter right now. Calvin's goal in the 100th year game vibes with Archie. I fully agree, but I feel like there's more important matches to come this season. I know that we'll look at it like Leicester are top of the league and we are second, and this draws them back into the conversation. But I feel like there's potentially something like bigger on the horizon. This will not be the pivotal game that defines things. I mean, it will. It is, as I mentioned in the title, a season-defining match. This will set the tone, in my opinion. But if we perform well and get a draw, it still won't be a big problem. We'll still be effectively fine. But in terms of that first team lineup, I've gone Melier, I've gone Gray, Rodon, Ampadu, Firpo, Groif and Kamara, Somerville, Ruter, Nonto behind Joe Piru. Classic little 4-2-3-1. I sort of want to know what the chat thinks because I think this could be a quite weird, interesting one where I feel like people are going to argue a little bit because some people won't like the Firpoism of it. Some people won't be too big of a fan of the Piru, but I feel like that just sort of makes sense. It's the side that is structured enough for us to rely on here. Imagine Archie scoring at Hillsborough to basically turn Wednesday down. That would be spectacular. I don't know when we have Sheffield Wednesday because I know it's not the last match of the season. Let's have a quick skim through our fixtures, shall we? No way is Archie sending Sheffield Wednesday down on the 8th of March. If they're going down that early, then I like the optimism, but I wouldn't want to give it to Archie in that case. So, outside of the starting lineup, there are some quite big Opta facts and stats that I've managed to see because I work for a broadcaster that works with Opta, so I just had a little bit of a look into it. This one little stat wasn't the most optimistic. Leeds last completed a league double over the Foxes in the 94-95 season. That was spooky because that tells me that we have a little bit of history working against us, but that could be significantly worse because it shows that we've still gotten results against Leicester. I'm thinking back to the first season back in the Premier League where Bamford scored that absolute worldie past Kasper Schmeichel. There we go. For some reason, that was really hard to say. I don't know why. In addition to that, another ominous but sort of funny fact was Willy Gnonto has 5 goals in the last 5 matches, but he hasn't scored at home since that absolute stunner against Cardiff in the FA Cup. That was definitely a surprise. That one I completely didn't see coming because I thought that Gnonto had scored plenty at home, and apparently not. So I feel like this could be the perfect environment for Willy Gnonto to get a little bit of that Elland Road crowd back on side. That'd be very nice for him to do. And in addition to that, the last time a Leeds versus Leicester match had over 2 goals was 6 matches ago. And the time, off the top of my head, that it last happened in the Championship was in, I think, 2014, off the top of my head. A very long time ago, which is a little bit unpleasant because it means that we might not get too many goals when really we want to beat them 5-0. Ideally, I'd just like the numbers to get quite big in terms of the goals we score against them. If they score lots against us, I might have a breakdown. That could be the problem. Farke telling Fibs to unsettle the Leicester group. Mind games. I wish it was mind games. That would make me incredibly happy, but it doesn't quite feel like that's the case. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy to sort of try and trick other fans and other squads because he seems a little bit too honest for that. He's more Bielsa than he is Marsh. And I think that's kind of important when you're managing Leeds United. And it means that I think that we can trust him a little bit more. We need to go with the same team. It's worked, so let's go again. I think I'm on board with this. Considering the fact we're on 8 matches in a row that we've won, I don't think it would make any sense for us to rotate any of the positions. That's why I've gone unchanged in my predicted lineup. In this respect, history is meaningless. It is, but then again, Leeds fans always talk about curses. So it's my turn. Let's talk curse. Thing is, we don't tend to win at the Crisp Bowl, but we do sneak past them at home. We could be not Leedsy on Friday. That would be wonderful. I'd like to be very un-Leedsy. Afternoon, Joe. Hello, Kevin. Hope you're doing quite well. I apologise again to some of my regulars who might have been expecting an FM stream this afternoon, but I can't do any filming for the Leicester match tomorrow. Well, I can't film a preview for the Leicester match tomorrow because I'm on a train to Leeds to watch the Leicester match. But if there's anything you guys want me to record, on the train, en route, a nice little match day vlog, just let me know because I will get that out for you, absolutely. All 4 guys up front scoring would be rather nice. It'd be spectacular. I would love that so much. We have the most experienced manager. I completely agree. I think Maresca is good at what he does. There's a reason that he worked under Pep Guardiola, and it's a pretty big but, that doesn't necessarily always translate to performing effectively when it comes to these crunch games. I think Maresca is going to have a couple of little issues because I don't know if Leicester City are pumped up enough, because they also have those little arguments that they're having in their fan base where they're like, is Maresca exciting enough and stuff like that. You're top of the league by a comfortable margin. Don't be having inner civil wars right now is the best bit of advice you could ever give Leicester City. The best advice I could give you is to like the stream. That'd be much appreciated. You see how slick that segue was? I'll roll with it. Being Leeds means stuffing Leicester, then losing to Huddersfield. You see, I think we're in a spot right now where we can beat Leicester, but I don't think we'll lose to Huddersfield. I think we're a little bit too organised for that at the moment, and that will absolutely come back to bite me. So someone clip that, and we'll keep an eye on it. But I think we'll be okay. Leeds going up, I hope so. They're not beating us in our own backyard. I think I agree with that. And I like this idea from, is that a comb or a com? From Tony, who thinks 5-0 Leeds, top 4 plus Archie. That would be absolutely spectacular. Afternoon Stripper, how's it going? I'm gonna keep going with Stripper. I'm not going the full name. You caught me out once. And Hannah says, please let them have that inner civil wars. I had no idea how salty their fans are. Their fans are insane. I don't understand it. I think they've basically gone, so we got relegated and they've gone full entitlement and sort of assume that they're entitled to be a Premier League club and have the most exciting football. And I understand wanting it, but the whole perspective of we deserve it, it's ours, is a bit, well, you got to win the football games to do that. Anyway, back to the preview. I've got a little bit of something on how Leicester City play, and I think it's quite interesting. And it weirdly matches us in some ways. So first up, they like to hold a lot of the ball. I've looked through all of their matches in terms of statistics, in terms of percentages of having the ball, not having the ball, all that sort of stuff. And I'm going to quickly bring it up for you now. For you now, sorry. Leicester City. There we go. Find their fixtures. Present the screen. Bosh and Bosh. Cool. So, Leicester City. Fixtures this season. Looking at their possession. Why is it not giving me an average? That's annoying. But you've got 65%, 75, 69, and you've got to go all the way down to Southampton for them to not have more than 50% of the ball. And then they lost 3-1 to Liverpool, which obviously you're not going to have more of the ball. But outside of that, they have only had less than 50% of possession once. Coventry City, which is a little bit spooky, I think, is a good way to put that, because we know that they like having the ball. We know that they enjoy having possession. And that means that they have the flexibility to be a little bit more defensively solid, which also I can understand people being a little bit spooked by. Because you look at Leicester City this season and you immediately think, okay, so they're going to potentially just not concede a goal, which is spooky. They are the second best in the league on expected goals against, behind us. We're a little bit clear of them, I think 3 or 4 goals or something. And they have the exact same number of goals conceded, 26. We are not underperforming our XG too badly. We are roughly where we need to be right now. It's just the fact that Hermansen, their goalkeeper, is an absolute machine. Or at least he was at the start of the season. Now he's sort of regressed to the mean. He's sort of being as you would expect. But this means that we'll probably get relatively few chances compared to what we're used to, which is quite a lot. And in addition to that, they use quite a lot of counterattacks, quite a lot of transitions to score goals. This is because when other teams win the ball, they realise we've got a very limited window in which we are allowed to attack Leicester. And then they throw players forward, and they've accidentally thrown too many players forward. And then Leicester go, oh, we've got the ball now. Let's ping it to Daka, Fatawu, Mavadidi, Jamie Vardy. And that's where teams' problems come in, when they allow Leicester to counter. something that I think they'll be able to deal with, but I'll get into that in a second. They also play fairly central football. They have wingers that like to cut inside quite a lot. Fatawu and Mavadidi are sort of less wingers than inside forwards. They will play out in those wing positions, cut into their favourite foot and have a shot. Same sort of thing as Crescencio Somerville, which hopefully our players will know how to deal with from training, but I suppose we'll find out how it goes. And they are also on an incredible scoring run. This is something that I picked up from the Opta stats as well. They have scored in all of their last 17 fixtures, which, look at our last 8 matches in which we've only conceded 1 goal. That is the definition of unstoppable force, immovable object. Hopefully, the unstoppable force bounces off and we'll be completely fine. But I think that could be a little bit of a challenge that we will have to deal with. And in addition to that, they come into games quite late. 60% plus of their goals have been scored in the second half. I think it's like 61, 62%, something like that. And that's a little bit opposed to what we do. What we do is we score early on, we take the lead, and then we solidify. We take that bit of an advantage and we hold. Game management, fairly standard stuff. Leicester City will tend to be in a position where they have a little bit of a slow start, build momentum, build up, build, cause problems in the second half, which could be a little bit spooky. And that is the How Leicester Plays segment sorted. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat for a moment. Trying to stay modest. We deserve it. Let's not beat around the bush. I think we deserve something. But at the same time, it's hard to say that Leicester don't, because they are top of the league for a reason. They're very good. Great possession stats if you're only passing 1 yard across midfield. That I kind of get. They do have a lot of the ball, and it is a lot from holding the ball in midfield fairly stably. But a lot of that is what we do as well. But we do it after taking the league. Lead. I'd love us to take the league. Foothold, we run ragged against decent opposition. I think Foothold will be okay. And I will get into why in a couple of minutes. But I will get there. I have noted it down in the banners things that I've got set up. Acom is part of the City of York Bonnet. Okay. Thank you very much for letting me know. I will keep that in mind and make sure that I know how to pronounce it for next time. Again, I don't know whether it's Acom or Acom. It's fine. Surely possession stats based on how good you are. They don't intend to get high possession. They just get it because they're so much better than most opposition. Same with us. I don't think that's necessarily the case, because you can deliberately play more transitional football. You can just give the ball up from time to time and that be a part of your game plan. Make it a part of your strategy to say, we don't need the ball right now. They can faff about with it in front of us, as we have done a couple of times in the last few weeks. We've just sort of let sides hold the ball, pass it between themselves, and we've not broken that up. But that can be deliberate. That can be, we're giving ourselves a few minutes to just sit in our defensive structure, let them do their thing, and trust that our attack is good enough to not let them have the chances. Whereas Leicester seem to be actively holding the ball as a method of defending. And that is smart in a way because it stops other sides from creating those chances. But at the same time, yeah, it's a complex one. Afternoon, CB. Hope you're doing quite well. Interesting stat about late scoring compared to us. Is that not because they make subs early in the second half, second wind, etc.? We don't. I think there's a little bit of an argument to that, and I think you can see on FBref when people make substitutions. So I'll have a very quick look for that number if I can find it. That's going to be a little bit of a background search, I think. Is this on Saturday of the game? Yeah, it's on Saturday, etc., etc. Good afternoon, Dave. Hope you're doing well. Ideally doing quite well, yeah. Are you going to be at the Peacock with all the folks tomorrow, by the way, Dave? Because I'm considering popping down, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Leicester won the Premier League having a lot less possession than their opponents in a lot of matches. And that is, in my opinion, really telling about the fact that you don't necessarily have to hold the ball. You can just wait. You can wait for your opponents to show a little bit of weakness, and that is when you go. And I'm still trying to find these substitution statistics, but I can't spot them. There we go. Okay, cool. Right, I found it. So, present the screen. that one. Ideally, not my YouTube stats, because I'm fairly sure that doing that would get me a cheeky little demonetization. So, minutes per sub. Having a look at how long each team's substitutes tend to be on the pitch, which I think is a good stat for judging this, for judging whether or not Leicester's subs are on the pitch for longer than Leeds United's. The average Leicester City sub is on the pitch for 18 minutes. Fine, sure, fair enough. That's, I guess, enough time to make a little bit of an impact. The average Leeds United sub, 13. Now, I can see why this is potentially a point, where this is a point where you could say, well, I suppose Leeds United are, I'll just show the selected rows as well, just to sort of shorten things, where you could say that, sure, Leicester City are making more use of their impact subs. But at the same time, they have more unused substitutions. They have fewer minutes per start at the same time. So their average starter will be on the pitch for 83 minutes, whereas ours will be on the pitch for 85. We make more changes than they do, which means that, in theory, we'd get that second wind a little bit more often, but that's not the case. I think it's less of a case of they make substitutions so they score goals, and more a case of we both have roughly the same ideology when it comes to making substitutions, and that isn't going to be the fundamental difference maker. There's something different, in my opinion, that will split us in that regard, and I think that's just the way that we manage games compared to the way that they manage games. Farke set up perfectly against them earlier this season. I'm hoping we go again the same. Start fast, hit them with everything we have, but keep going, not let them back in. That would be the ideal world, I think. That would be the perfect case of get in, do what you need to do, and then keep doing it. Because if we give them any freedom, they will cause problems, like the match earlier in the season, where I think was it Kiernan Dewsbury Hall that had that last-minute shot against Illan Meslier, and he just about managed to claw it out in the last minute, but we got fairly, I don't want to say lucky, but we were relatively fortunate that Meslier was able to make that save, because that was an absolute lifesaver for us, and it made sure that we stayed in the game, we got those extra 2 points. If we allow them those chances this time, there's no guarantee that Meslier can make those saves, because it was such a good stop. So it's a little bit of a tricky one, I think, where you want to do what we did last game against them, because that was fairly effective, but we want to make sure that we keep consistent and secure ourselves at the back. If we overstretch ourselves, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that's what Leicester are really good at shutting down. They're really good at seeing a team that's overstretched themselves and then going, well, we've got the ball now, and we're just going to put it in the back of your net. And that's what we can't afford to let them do. Ipswich do the same, usually 3 subs on the 60th minute. Let's have a quick look at what the numbers say. I've just realised that I am no longer showing Ipswich. Okay, I will include Ipswich. I will include Southampton. Show selected rows. Cool. So, when it comes to substitutions, Ipswich have their substitutes on for less time than Leicester City do. On average, their subs will get 17 minutes of football. Not that much. I think the only side that you could say have like a good solid amount of time for their substitutes to make an impact would be on average Southampton, because their average sub is 69th minute-ish. So I'm not entirely sure that Ipswich do the same. They might do. I haven't watched that much Ipswich this season. But yeah, it's a question of, do those subs actually make a difference? Or is it a matter of fitness management, game management, all that kind of stuff? Good afternoon, James. I'm very well. Hope the same for you. That's a bit of a shame, Dave. I would have loved to see you there, but at some other point. Ipswich seem to be pretty good at scoring late too, the other night being an example. Yeah, Ipswich are really annoying at the moment, because the other night was the perfect opportunity for Ipswich to drop points, with Rotherham and their horrible away form somehow causing them problems. But eventually they ended up getting the 3 points. But I think that's shown a little bit of a weakness on Ipswich's side, which is absolutely fantastic for us, because it means that we've got something that we can properly go at. Maybe, hopefully, ideally. And Ipswich have quite a few fairly tough games to go. I've got a video coming out later, actually. I think it's 3 o'clock, in which I've noted down every single fixture that the top four have left to play. And Ipswich have like the easiest batch of all of us, but then again, it's still not very good because they still have to play Sunderland, they still have to play Coventry, Hull, and Southampton, which is not very good in 13 matches, and is going to apply a hell of a lot of pressure to them, which is ideal considering they're not on the best of runs at the moment, and they let Rotherham score 3 goals. A lot of our subs are last 5-minute time wasting subs. What annoys me is not making changes early in those games where we've gone to sleep. But at that point, which substitutions would make the change? Who can you bring on that would make a difference? Because there's been a few of those matches where it looks like we've not got much midfield control. But if you change the structure of the team, got a little bit of a problem because you have to play in that. But you could make an argument that when we've lost control of a game, maybe pushing Gray into midfield, take off, I don't know, Piru or something, and put Connor Roberts at right back. That could change the structure of things, but it also means that going forwards we're in a little bit more trouble, even though it's harder to, well, it's easier to hold the ball, but it makes it harder to create chances with the ball, would be my only concern with that. So it's, don't you pull out Disraeli against me. No. I will pull out my whole last politics degree and the masters, neither of which are useful in the slightest. Oh, that was quite a moment of, hey, you really wasted those 4 years, didn't you? Yeah, I know. Start subjecting my Arsenal supporting nephew to a Leeds stream. Good. This is unabashedly propaganda that your nephew needs to be listening to and agreeing with. Yes, lads. How are you doing, Jacob, in detail? Hopefully quite well. We were really poor versus Rotherham past 60 minutes, conceded 2, one of which was a fortuitous penalty. Ooh, fortuitous. But Amari Hutchinson saved the day and gave me the best limbs of all time. Jacob, I like you in the FM streams. Don't push it. Openly supporting Ipswich. How dare you? I've already fixed your team in Football Manager by accident by giving you some of my better players on loan. Anyway, so we know what Leicester are good at. They're on a banging scoring run. Hang on 1 second. The Roberts Gray example is the sort of thing I mean, though. But that's the thing. You're giving up. Whenever you make a substitution, you are giving up a part of your side's attack. Well, not attack, but a side of your structure to add something else. And when we have those moments where we're a little bit slow, or we fall asleep, they're not permanent. They will only go for like 5 minutes of not having a proper grip on possession. And we need to admit that like that's okay to happen. That isn't going to be a fundamental issue that is going to completely destroy our squad. It's something that we can build out of and start to cause other teams like problems long term with. It's not going to be a sort of we're done thing. You can come back from not having possession for 5 minutes, is what I'm trying to say. But you don't need to make changes to do that. As we've proven this season, we're second in the league. We've beaten first and third, and we've only played fourth once on what was a bad day for the squad. So I think there is a clear example of things can get significantly better. Going to have a quick look at Jacob's final comment before I dive into what Leicester are bad at. Playing a back five versus Leicester's the play, in my opinion. It sounds boring, but Borough did it. I half agree. There is a bit of an argument for it. There is an argument for maybe that makes you a bit more solid. But would it give us the opportunity to go forwards and get properly attacking? I don't know. I don't think so, is my concern. I think you can play 4 with Gruev sat in front. That would definitely help. But I think a pure 5 is running a risk that you don't need to run in this match. On the doubling up on wingers and midfielders being in the box simultaneously thing, I think we have a side that is energetic enough for the wingers to drop in and do that anyway. And the midfield knows how to defend as well and is fairly structured, and it'll be fine, basically. Having 6 days rest and not having to travel will help. I absolutely agree. And on this, the James Impact substitution might be good early. I will get into that in a moment. I do have a note on that one. So Leicester's weaknesses, they do have a few. Hold on. And they are weaknesses that I definitely feel like we can exploit. And I hope that we make the most of it. They can be hit in transition very hard. They've dropped points in 7 matches this season, which is not that many games, but in 6 of the 7 matches where they've dropped points, they had more possession than the other side. The one match where they dropped points and didn't have more than half of possession was against Coventry, where their entire side was just off the ball. They were having a really bad game, and it caused them quite big problems. And that is, I think, where the Maresca shouting started to happen, and they had that little bit of a civil war that Hannah likes so much. And in addition to that, they are significantly worse than we are at holding Leeds. I looked specifically at our home form and their away form. They have dropped 7 points away from home this season from a leading position. We've only dropped 2 from a leading position at home, which is pretty good. And it was relatively early in the season that we dropped those 2 points, if my thinking is right. And when you take the entire season anyway, they have also dropped more points than we have from leading positions, because they are quite good at, once they've taken a lead, getting a little bit smug about it, getting a little bit, okay, so we're leading, we'll be fine, which is not the case, because this is the Championship, and the Championship is an absolute bastard of a league to play in. And in addition to that, we've seen a few times that they can struggle against more skillful wingers. Having a quick look at their back line, I'll be one quick second whilst I pull up another of the tabs I was looking at. Because for some reason, what I did was I wrote this stream and then I closed all the tabs that I used to write it, and I was like, oh, I don't quite understand why I've done that. Yeah, here we go. So let's share this tab instead, and here we go. Right, so that is too small. Cool. So is my cursor working? Yes, it is. So their back line, you got Pereira, over the age of 30. Vestergaard, who is over the age of 30. You've got Wout Vaas, who is fairly young, fair enough, 25. But then again, he's not the paciest. And I think the most agile and flexible player they've got in that back line is James Justin, playing here. Protected by Harry Winks, who isn't the most sprightly of chaps, but he's apparently having a fairly good season. A lot of yellow cards, though. That could give us a lot of opportunities, because you consider the fact that we've got Crescencio Somerville running at someone that is 30 years old and 31 years old between Pereira and Vestergaard. He's definitely got the pace to outdo those. You've got Jorginho Rutter playing those nice little through balls in behind, especially if we're hitting on the transition, which Leicester are bad against. I've gone with Nonto on this flank, purely because he's got sort of the skill to do the aggressive stuff, and I don't think you change a winning team. But there is an argument for Willie Nonto playing out there. And I feel like, as Leicester's weaknesses go, which are going to be on the head-to-head, I believe. Yeah. Defending against skillful players, that is where Somerville comes in. Avoiding individual errors, that is where your Somerville, Rutter, Nonto come in and just press them incredibly high, incredibly hard, and force the problems. And they're really bad at stopping opponents from creating chances recently. That is specifically recently, because they were really good in terms of not conceding much XG for the early parts of the season. Recently, it's gotten worse for them, which is fairly important to note. That is a recent development and a little bit of a slump in their form, which is absolutely spectacular for us. But I feel like that's going to be ideal for us in terms of the attack being fast and skillful and competent and able to cause issues. And this is where the James thing comes in. I've put this under the how Leeds need to play segment, but I think we need to be intelligent with the way we use substitutions, and Dan James will be the key, in my opinion. If you're 65, 70 minutes into a match against Leeds United, you are going to be tired as a defender, because it is not going to be slow. It's not going to be easy. And then you hear on the horizon the Duracell bunny just whirring himself up and getting a bunch of energy going. And I think that's where Dan James comes in. He's going to cause them a lot of problems late on, and he's going to do both the attacking job and the defensive job, because he does both. He's happy doing both. But in terms of Leicester weaknesses, I think we've got the strengths that perfectly match what they are not good at. It'd be very tempting to play James for his defensive tracking over Gnonto, but I doubt you drop Willie due to his form. I think I agree with that, because not only are you sort of, as you mentioned with Gnonto's form, Gnonto has been very good for the past few weeks, month or so. Scored 5 in 5. That is completely undeniably good football and talent, basically. But I think Dan James is the perfect impact sub for this match. And this is where, with Martin, I was agreeing. I wasn't agreeing with in previous matches we've needed it, because at the end of the day we've come out with points. But I think against a side like Leicester that are going to really come at us, Dan James will be a big problem for them. Because, as I mentioned with the transition, he can get up the other end of the pitch in 10, 15 seconds, which a lot of players in this division can't. So him and Somerville, with Rutter playing a ball to either of them, will cause big problems, I think. Winker's underlap and James Justin's overlap is a big issue on the right-hand side. It'll be pivotal to see who will win. I think our right-hand side is fairly solid, which is, I think, a pretty big point on this one. Could be quite important, because right-hand side, you've got Gray, who we've seen can do a pretty good job. He did pretty well against Leicester in the first match. There were a couple of times that an attacker came up against him and tried to do something good, but it didn't work out. You've also got Gnonto, who's been better at tracking in. Again, you might consider Dan James for that position, but I'm not 100% sure. And then you've got your Groove and Kamara that can come float across, help out from the midfield, which I think could be very useful. Duracell Dan is the perfect name. Did I say something daft and woodsy? I don't remember saying anything daft and woodsy. If I did, remind me. We'll see. Agree, it's only some matches, but where we do need changes, Farke's always slow to change. Maybe. It depends what you mean by need, because sometimes things can look slow, but we'll end up with the result. I think it's quite hard to define sometimes. But then you need to talk about how Leeds United need to play in this match. And there are some pretty big notes that you need to make, in my opinion. First up, I think we really need to emphasize transitions. I've discussed throughout this little stream video, however you're watching it. If you're watching it on VOD, hi, welcome, hope you're well. But if you're watching it on the stream, you'll know that I've discussed transitions being the fundamental part of how we get points here, because they can be wide open at the back. There is something fantastic that we can just run at and cause them problems. And if we do emphasize those transitions, there will be plenty of space behind, there will be plenty of opportunities for us, and we just need to put them in. But at the same time, this is something that I feel will be a very, very antsy topic in the ground, will be an antsy topic on any watch-alongs. We don't need to be afraid to let them have the ball. As Martin mentioned, in watch-alongs, people get frustrated when we don't have the ball, when other sides are comfortable just holding possession and passing it about a bit. I don't think we need to be afraid of that. 34-second advert on my non-premium account. To be fair, that wasn't my fault. That's YouTube doing its thing. Also, be on your premium account. I think that gives me more revenue anyway. So, yeah, I think we don't be afraid of them having the ball. That would be absolutely ideal for us, because the more they hold possession, we have seen statistically, the more likely they are to drop points, because they get confident. They try and force things that don't work, and then you get to hit them on the counter, on the transition. As Evie said, we need to start fast and exploit their back line, use the pacey plays, because they will get high up. The likes of Pereira and Vestergaard will not have the pace to keep up with Somerville or Rutter or Gnonto or James, depending on who is in your perfect lineup here. But if we go at them and properly commit and make things happen, we'll be fine. But a part of making things happen is not being afraid to let them have the ball, because that's when they open up gaps, when they're quite desperate to force something. And in addition to that, we still need to stay defensively solid. This will be something that Farke has emphasized time and time and time again. And it's been mentioned that there was a 6-day rest period for the Leeds players coming into this. And that'll be huge for getting a result here, because it's meant that although earlier in the week Daniel Farke mentioned we've lessened the training load, that doesn't mean that they're not doing things like video review. And things like video review involve, okay, so what are Leicester City's flaws? And trying to find the issues that they have and what causes them to concede goals and how they score. And the more we're doing that, the more we're able to shut down their opportunities. And that 6-day gap is going to be colossal, in my opinion, compared to the 3 or 4 that we've been blessed with by the EFL in the past few weeks. A little note that I've spotted as well is we will quite badly need to focus on getting midfield control, especially if Ricardo Pereira inverts, because that's something that he's done a little bit at a time. I had a look through the Opta stats earlier on and noted that in terms of lineup, Leicester City don't always play flat back 4. Sometimes it's just in left centre back. Then who on earth do they also have at centre back? I remember. Wout Faes and Yannick Vestergaard will be the back 3, with Pereira and Winks sat in front. He's inverting into that central midfield position, and that's where it can get difficult to keep control because they've got more midfielders there now. And that's where we'll need to sort of make similar adjustments. I know Joe Rodon likes his wandering up into midfield. We can have Archie Gray similarly invert, give us a nice little 3 in midfield behind Jorginho Rutter. I think that'll be key if we do try to hold possession. But at the end of the day, I think this is one of those games that will end up with football being a little bit of a chess match, and we need to be intelligent with our substitutions. Dan James will be key, in my opinion, assuming he's fit. Please be fit. I really want Dan James to play in this match because he's got that pace to cause them problems. He's got that defensive work rate to drop back in and really sort of make sure that that left-hand side doesn't cause us issues with Justin, with Winks as underlap, with who's their left winger? Is it Fatawu or Mavadidi? Typically, Mavadidi, to make sure that Mavadidi doesn't get it done as well. That is going to be absolutely essential, in my opinion. And I've not looked at the comments for the last couple of minutes, but how do you guys think that Leeds need to play? Because I'm a little bit on the fence about a few things. Evie is terrified and ridiculously excited for this game. It could make the season, but I don't think it will break it. I think that's a good way of looking at it, yeah. I think if we win this, that is a lot of momentum going into a series of matches that aren't too bad. So after this, we play 22nd, then 10th, and then we got a couple of tricky ones against 6th and 4th. Is that 4th or is that 9th? I can't write or read my own writing, apparently. But it's a lot easier than Leicester. And I think getting that momentum is going to be absolutely fundamental to get a little bit of a psychological edge and the added benefit of pulling Leicester in a little bit more. Get them down to 6 points of a gap. Because in mid-January, it was 17. If Leicester get back down to 6 points of a gap, this isn't a 3-horse race anymore. We're back up to 4 horses for 2 positions rather than just the 1. And that feels a lot more comfortable, in my opinion. It's not going to be a season-defining game, but if we win, it'll be a big psychological advantage. Absolutely. That is firmly my opinion on this one. If we are able to get all 3 points, it's a big advantage for us, and we can start to cause them some real issues by putting the pressure on from behind, because it's something they've not really had to deal with this season so far. And ideally, we can just sort of make them struggle. Hopefully, ideally, please. I do have some predictions, but I want to know your guys' predictions for the game, both in terms of what happens on the pitch and what happens in terms of the result, because I am a little bit scared to have a strong opinion on this one, because it's one where you want to say that the good things happen, but if the good things don't happen, it's a little bit terrifying. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to run a quick poll in the chat and see what you guys think. Do we think Leeds win? Do we think draw? Or do we think Leicester win? There's about 50 of you here. Pop your predictions in the poll in the chat if you want to go a little bit more specific, if you want to let me know the score. But it will be an incredibly tight game. They will. I think there'll only be 1 or 2 goals because, as I mentioned earlier, it was 6 meetings ago that there was last more than 2 goals in a Leeds versus Leicester match, because both sides don't like conceding against each other, and both sides have hilariously strong defenses this season. Same goals conceded, similar XG against. it's going to come down to slim margins and decent enough finishing. We could also see Leicester adapt to playing a little bit of a wider game, trying to hit Firpo hard, trying to hit Gray hard, just because those aren't traditionally our strongest positions. They tend to go a little bit more central with their attacking, but I can see them trying to push the game wider and wider and wider and trying to cause us issues out there. Optimistically, I'm going to say 1-0 Leeds. Maybe. But unlike on my wedding day, I'm currently scared to commit. Because I feel like anything I say, I might curse. I want to go full commit. I want to fully say, sod it, we'll win 5-0. As was it Tony that mentioned it earlier and saying that we'll have the entire front four and Archie Gray score a goal. But I don't know. But I also want to know what you guys think. So I'm going to have a quick look through the comments. We have a lot of pretty nice predictions that I enjoy. 2-0 Leeds, 3-0 Leeds, 2-0 Leeds, 2-0 Leeds. I think a win, but I'd settle for a draw. I'm also in the spot where I wouldn't mind a draw too much. A draw is fine. A draw keeps us undefeated. I wouldn't mind losing, to be honest with you, because, I mean, I'd mind it. I wouldn't be happy with it because it would break my streak of going to Elland Road and seeing us win. But it's a complicated one, I think. 2-1 win, Somerville and Bamford if he plays, otherwise DJ. I'd love a Patrick Bamford goal in this one. That'd make me so happy. I'd love it. Looking through the non-prediction ones, the irony is, I believe if we win this game, then Leicester do us a favour and smash Southampton to widen the gap. That would be absolutely spectacular, although it'd be quite funny to see Leicester drop as many points as possible. I do agree with this, though. Leicester, I think, are a side that if they lose would look for vengeance. They don't seem like a well-adjusted lot from what I've read of their fan base online, and I think that we could really do something to sort of provoke that a little bit. Also, Evie, remind me at some point, I'm going to ping you a message about a quiz thing that I'm trying to do. Remind me, please, or I will completely forget because work has been insane. Southampton in particular will be frustrated with the Leeds win. Martin's already having a meltdown in presses and post-match. That is absolutely wonderful. I love watching other sides fall apart whilst we're for the most part confident in Daniel Farke. Because there are some parts of the fan base that keep going, well, Farke's not done enough, we're not up yet. And it's like, well, I don't quite understand what you expect him to do, to be honest with you. Be completely fine. It's not a problem. We're on win after win after win after win after win. But I understand people being a little bit more spooked. I support small businesses and smaller YouTube channels now. Thank you very much, Kevin. Much appreciated. We win with comfort. Bjorn, I am not the most confident about that one. I'm not sure about comfortably, but we'll have to find out. Kevin, yeah, I think that's a good way to go. Joe B's a great one to watch. Thank you. And I much appreciate you sticking around. Still worried about Firpo, great going forward, but very dodgy defending. Fox going to target him, no doubt. Right, this is where I'm going to be the stats nerd that I am. And do you guys like it when I go stats nerdy? Because it's just a part of my noggin that just kicks in sometimes, and I'm like, right, I need to talk about this. Right, where are we for the defensive stats? Right, so who's played at fullback this season? Gray has. Strauch hasn't been a fullback. Byram has. Ayling has. Shax has. Why can't I find Junior Firpo? Who's kidnapped Junior Firpo from FBref? There we go. Chuck Spence in there as well. Cool. Show selected rows. That wasn't the one I was trying to bring up. Is it so you can point and laugh at me in the quiz again? No, genuinely. I'm planning a charity event in August, and I'm doing a little bit of a one-to-one with creators quiz series building up to it. And I just think it'd be nice to have you on, to be honest with you. Plus, you still owe me an appearance on your channel when it shows up. which I'm still not sure when that is right now. Stripper, I live in Leicester. I know for a fact their fans are breaking it. That is spectacular. I want to see them fall apart. That would make me so happy. I imagine that like the Rutter Somerville axis is what's causing them a few slight issues. So, bringing back the numbers. There we go. I'm covering the numbers. There we go. Cool. Right. So, toggle per 90, tackles per 90. These numbers have changed because Firpo hasn't had anything to defending to do in the most recent matches. Where are we? Right, tackles won percentage. Junior Firpo has the highest percentage of tackles won out of all the Leeds United fullbacks. He might not have made the most. He's not needed to make the most because the defensive structure adjusts around him. He also has the fewest tackles lost per 90, with Byram being a little bit worse than him. He loses twice as many tackles every 90. Firpo also gets plenty of blocks in, third behind Spence and Byram. I'm going to get rid of Spence because I think Spence has enough minutes for it to be like representative. He played like 3 times for us. In terms of interceptions, he's up there as only slightly behind Sam Byram. Clearances, a little bit average. Passes blocked, he's up there. He's second behind only Luke Ayling. I think what we've done with the Junior Firpo stuff is we've taken the fact that we didn't trust Firpo in the Premier League and we've converted that to be equivalent to the Premier League. And the Championship isn't the Premier League. They are entirely different divisions. It is significantly easier to play in this league than in the Premier League. And I feel like we don't apply that to Junior Firpo, who is near the top 4 all of our numbers. I don't mind Junior Firpo right now. He's doing a good enough job. Yes, Kevin, I want more women to feel comfortable in giving their footballing opinion. Absolutely. I fully agree with that. That's why I tried to get... I will admit I do not know that many Leeds fans, but all of the women Leeds fans that I know, I asked if they could do one of those little clips for the Ultimate Guide video that you did, Evie, and my friend Alice did, which was much appreciated. There were a couple of people who couldn't get them in time, but that's completely fine. Yes, the stats nerd. I'm a numbers gal by professional, which is perfectly obvious if you read my comments. Absolutely. I love a little bit of data that backs up a point, because then you can go, aha, this isn't the eye test. There's a number, and you can just point to the number that works for you. 2-0 win will give us 6 goal difference and 6-point gap. That would be absolutely wonderful. As close as we can get to Leicester as possible would be delicious. And we'd be at 72 points if we win this match as well, which is almost certainly enough for the playoffs any season of football. I like that. I like that we're doing quite well. It makes me quite happy. Stato. Who remembers Stato? I don't hugely remember Stato. I know the name, but I don't know why I know the name. But it's all about FBref and WhoScored.com now. I had a dream that Leeds batter Leicester and pen them in their own half. That would be fan-dabby-dozy, but I think more realistically, Leicester will look like they're penning us in our own half and we'll hit them on the transition. It was a fantasy football thing. Stats Dalton is doing a charity quiz on the 27th of March and would like some teams. I'm putting a team in, 5 per team, £50 per team. Okay, sorry, I got confused there. I'll be raising money for the Leeds United Foundation and Leeds Food Banks. I might consider hopping in on that. Is it an in-person one or a streamy one? Because in-person will be difficult because I'm in Blackpool. But we'll see. I think Firpo, when he goes forward, the team work in tandem to support and cover him when he gets forward. Yeah, I think Firpo is better going forward than Byram. And at the same time, I think going backwards, we've got support for him. So it's not the hugest problem. I like Junior Firpo, okay? Let me enjoy him. He's a good boy, I'm sure of it. Kevin, that's an amazing dream. It is. I would love to pen them in and win like 6-0. Come on, Leicester. Bob Saint. Bob. I have gotten 21 votes on this poll asking for the results for tomorrow, and only one of them believes it'll be a Leicester win. Would that be you by any chance? And if so, show you're working, because I'm a little bit curious. Statos on fantasy football with Skinner and Badil. Okie dokie. Thank you for letting me know. In person at Elland Road, I ran out of characters. When's the 27th of March? Do you know what day the 27th of March is? Because I might be stuck working. It's Wednesday. That would be a maybe. I would love to be able to, but we'll have to find out, I think. But the chat seems mostly unified, believing in our Leeds win. 19 votes for a Leeds win, 2 for a draw, 1 for a Leicester win. I'm still incredibly curious about how Leicester fans are feeling right now, and that's why I tried to get Bob Saint to let me know his thoughts, because I'm feeling a little bit happy about this one. I'm less scared than I should be, and that will absolutely come back to bite me, but I'll take it. I love this team this season, which is incredible. I could barely tolerate the team last season. I think there's a thing about transfers more than anything, because what we've done is we've been in a situation where anyone that didn't want to be here went away, except Willie Nonto, but we didn't need to lose Willie Nonto. 1 second. Oh, dear. Is that showing? No, absolutely not. It'll be right. It's fine. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, we're in a situation where all of the players that wanted to leave have already left. And that means that we've got a little bit of a nice friendly core around the remaining players that don't want to force a move, and they're here because they want to be here, and there's a little bit of a positive club culture building around that, and that's something I can be quite happy about, I think. Mavididi, Fatawu, Dewsbury Hall all had a shit performance against Borough, ripped off at halftime. I'm expecting a big performance from them. So we discussed this a little bit earlier on. We were fully expecting a little bit of a situation where you'd get a fight back from Leicester if we win this match. Are you saying that you're expecting that fight back to come this one because they had bad performances? Because that's a fair point. We're doing amazing considering we started the season with a changed team. Absolutely. This is a completely transplanted squad. It's huge. Massive transitions. And I think we've come out of it quite well. The team have a completely different mindset. I think I agree on that one. I think Leicester will win. Got to play Cannon up front. Oh, that's cheating. You can't bring light artillery to a football match. That's not how this works. You can't. There's no weaponry in football apart from Brendan Aronson, who's an absolute fucking weapon. This season we have players of ability and motivation and a manager who's pretty good. I think in terms of how do I put this? In terms of the pure natural talent side of things, I'm in a spot where I think we've got about the same. I think on paper, Adams is probably better than Ampadu. I think on paper, Sinisterra is probably better than Anthony. It's the manager point, I think, because you've got a manager that understands his players, a manager that can actually train his players, as we learned from the discussions on Somerville recently, where Jesse Marsh was he was really bad in training. Well, look now, it's working. How do I angle this so it's visible? There we go. That'll do. Cool. And yeah, I think in terms of pure ability, we're about the same. In terms of having an actual manager, I think we're looking really good. Farke's teams get stronger in the run-in. Look what happened to Norwich. That feels absolutely true, and it feels like we're already sort of experiencing that, which I am very, very, very happy with. Bob Saint, I think you're right. We have a fantastic record at home this year, and a lot of players reaching their perfect potential at this time of year. That feels right. The ceiling on this Leeds side is incredibly high, and we are seeing it just keep on growing. And I like that. I like that we found a structure that works. I like that we found a bunch of players that enjoy playing together and suit each other. I like watching Leeds United again, I think is a good way of looking at it. thought we were about to get a Team Iris moment. You are not, because she's asleep in that room. Probably. Is she? I'll assume she's asleep so I don't have a little bit of a panic and end up looking for her in the loft or something weird like that. It's not a fluke winning 8 on the bounce. Absolutely. I think that's where I land. They owe the fans a performance. That is what could be a little bit tricky. Because if you're a Leicester player and you have it in your head, if you're any player and you have it in your head that I owe the fans a performance or I need to do X, Y, or Z because of the fans, are you not running the risk at an away match of already having fan opinion in your head and being in a position where that fan opinion can affect you in a negative way? Because Elland Road will not be friendly. Elland Road will be angsty. The most angry I've ever seen in Elland Road was back when we played Man United. 4-2, pissing rain. Not a good day. And we were all over the Scum players' backs. But if you're a player in that situation and you've already said, I need to do X, Y, or Z for the fans, and you're paying attention to the opinion of people not on the pitch, you've already lost. No matter who you are, no matter where you're playing or who you're playing for, you need an extent of mental fortitude when you are a footballer, because you need to be in a position where you can sort of separate yourself from the situation that you're in and perform at your best. If they're in a position where they feel like they owe the fans a performance, that's where they start having issues, and that's where they show a little bit of weakness, in my opinion. That could be daft, but I'm going to roll with it. Enzo can't play the high line. How do you mean he can't play the high line? As in, like, he doesn't want to play the high line? He never plays the high line? Or when they play the high line, they're really bad? Because it could be any of the above. And depending on that, I will respond appropriately. There's a clash of the Giants. The fans in Elland Road will be a... Were you aiming for Cauldron? Because I think Cauldron is somewhat cooler. I think I like Cauldron. And intimidating for this one. I think, yeah, it's going to be a very intimidating Elland Road, a very angry Elland Road, and one that will absolutely get behind the players and be disgustingly loud. The best players thrive on shitting up an away crowd. They do, but if... That's the thing. You've said that they're the best players. However, they did have an absolute stinker against Middlesbrough, which you're allowed an off day. That's fine. But the issue then is, can you return? Can you bounce back? Can you cause an issue? When we play a high line, Vestergaard's going to lose a sprint race to my grand. Yeah, that's what I've sort of hoped for throughout this preview. I have popped in a little banner noting that the use of subs will be important, and especially Dan James. Because Dan James is a quick, agile, nimble little guy, and if you end up in a situation where the player that has to mark him is Vestergaard, game over. Done. End of the show. Because Dan James will get in behind, Dan James will cause big problems, and that's where you start to see significant issues for Leicester. So, ideally, Dan James is able to cause some quite big problems there. I wish I could be there tomorrow. The atmosphere will be the best all season because our future is in our hands for the first time this season. Absolutely. Because if we win this, it's not only a confidence booster, but it's a message to everyone else that we're going to force our way in. That we're going to say, okay, we have shown throughout this year so far that we are this unstoppable force that has won 8 on the bounce. I guess we drew against Plymouth in the FA Cup, but that doesn't really count. And if we do convert that into another win, that's where the sides around us will go, oh shit. And will put pressure on themselves to force themselves to try and get those better results, because they will need them, because we will have done the job. That's what counts. He'll play Bamford for this one. I don't know if he's fit enough is the only issue. Bamford is apparently 50-50 to be decided on between today and tomorrow. It'll be a pretty big recovery if he's able to, but I wouldn't start Bamford just because this is a big game, but it's not the be-all and end-all. It's not if we beat Leicester, we go up. It's if we beat Leicester, we're in a better position. But then again, I don't know. It's an important match, but it's not one where you want to re-injure Patrick Bamford. Dan James will be up against Doyle or JJ. Thing is, Dan James is quick, but his distribution is poor. I don't think it has been. Yeah, I think I'm on the side of CB on this one. Hold on. We're getting Numbers Joe back. We love Numbers Joe. Well, I love letting out Numbers Joe. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at pass completion. Doesn't feel quite right. Expected assists. Dan James is third with 6 assists. A hell of a lot of them. Wait, hang on. What? Expected goal that follows a pass that assists the shot. You see, this is where Numbers Joe starts to struggle. The likelihood of each completed pass becoming an assist. Okay, that makes more sense. So, not only is Dan James putting on the third most chances in terms of quality, but in terms of expected assisted goals, they're easy to hit, which is a new stat that I've just learned, but I'm quite happy that I've learned that because that's really interesting. And I don't see a place in which Dan James particularly struggles here if he does play. 16 goals and assists. To say his distribution's not quite there is a little bit weird. I think he saves Bamford because we need him for all the low block teams we're going to face. Yeah, if Bamford does play, I'm happy. If Bamford doesn't play, then it means we're looking after him and making sure that he's not overworked. So I'm equally happy. We need 3 points. If Bamford's fit, he needs to play. My one concern is I don't think Bamford is fully fit. That's the worry. If he is, I'm absolutely overjoyed because you know me. You know I love a little bit of Pat Bamford. But I think we're going to have fortune in our way if we are to have Pat fit enough to get this game played. He might come off the bench, but I don't think he starts. Evie, the tough game will be as well when we go up against Stoke and Southampton. Stoke? What's going on with Stoke? Thank you very much, Bjorn. Hope you had a good time. See you later. And thank you for the luck. We will definitely need it. Probably, maybe. Let's have a look. I think I'm Stoke like 16th. Something like that. I don't think they're too comfortable. Yeah, hang on. Bosh. Yeah, Stoke, 19th in the league. I'm not too sure they're that much of an issue. I mean, they are quite hard to create shots and chances against, judging by this. But I don't think they're that terrifying. Southampton, I agree. Southampton is going to be, hopefully, meaningless, but realistically, a big one, I think. Going to be a cracking game, hopefully, and ball draw. Let's not have a ball draw. Let's win this. A win would be absolutely beautiful. Oh, okay, not Stoke, you mean Hull. That makes a lot more sense now. I think we'll be okay, though. Maybe? I don't know. I'm going to stay optimistic, and I'm going to focus on Leicester in the meantime. My wife asked what I want for my birthday tomorrow. 3 points in a doner kebab. How about this? This is where, like, weirdly, I like to tempt fate. Do what I do and say that if Leeds win, you get a kebab. If Leeds lose, you get a kebab and cheesy chips. So you've got an extra little benefit, but also happy birthday for tomorrow. Hopefully we do get those 3 points because that would be incredibly joyfully happy. But I'm very glad to see that for the most part, we're expecting a Leeds win. We now have 5 people thinking that Leeds won't win, which makes me think that good old Bob Saint has pulled in his besties. You bastard. It's fine. Everyone's welcome. It's all good. So yeah, I'm ultimately a little bit positive on this one. I think we're going to get all 3 points. I'd love to be in the camp of people that are just sort of able to be scared, because I'm aware that that's probably the more realistic thing, but I'm currently in that good vibe of like, we've played good football for the last 2 months and I don't see a reason why it should stop. And I think if we do lose, we won't lose particularly badly. I think we'll be basically okay. Yeah. Should I stop being positive? I don't dare to say Leeds win on a poll. I feel like I'll curse it. At some point, Evie, I'm going to get you either on Final Word or on my channel or on your channel. There will be a clip of you saying something positive will happen, and I will be there. It will be clipped. It will be saved. And if it comes true, you are truly the predictive genius. However, the moment it doesn't, I will also be weeping with you, because I like being positive. Let's have good vibes. Let's have everything be good, because bad things happening is no fun. I don't like that we have had another vote for a Leicester win, because that makes me think that that's Evie's vote now. And Evie has deliberately tried to like counter curse herself, maybe? PTSD is real with Leeds. Absolutely, yes. The reason I don't want us to go into the playoffs is because I remember Derby. Well, I half remember Derby. This is a really fun story that I might turn into a video at some point. For the Derby playoff match, the bad one, the second leg, I had 7-a-side football that night. So I watched the first 20 minutes or so. We were leading 2-0 up on aggregate. Fantastic. All is well. And then I get home after losing 8-1, because we were a team that had played together for the first time ever, to see that we were not, in fact, going to Wembley. We were going to play for another season in the Championship. But that second season was quite fun, right? There's always a positive. Second season under Bielsa was good. But I think we'll be okay this time. I don't believe this game is season-defining. We're going to drop points, and so are the other 3, so tomorrow is what it is in my eyes. I think it's... As a result, it won't define the season. The 3 points won't make a difference. But I think what does make the difference is the momentum that you get from it. Hold on. Say if Leeds or Leicester get blown out of the water 3 or 4-0 tomorrow. Both sides are going to be miserable. It's not going to be a good time. So whilst the points don't define things, I think the feeling of the points can define things. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Free Falling thinks 3-2 Leeds. Kevin thinks 3-1 Leeds. Carol thinks 1-0 Leeds. Remember, we are Leedsy. I am fully aware that we are Leedsy. I just hope that we're not. Leicester needs to up our game from now till the end of the season. Ndidi is a big miss for us in midfield. What's happened to Ndidi? Because I saw he wasn't available. And I thought, that's a little bit weird. But I'm not going to complain, because it severely weakens that midfield. Because if it's like a long-term injury, then I'm going to be absolutely joyous. But I can't find anything on how injured he is, which is a little bit of a problem. Yeah, I'm scared. 3-1 Leicester, he's injured for another month, I think. That's good. That means that he's not available for a while, and that means that Leicester will continue to drop some points, ideally. I think 3-1 Leicester's a big shout. I think in total we've conceded 3 since Boxing Day. So for that to happen in one night would be, as mentioned on the momentum front, big. Imagine we steamroll them like we did Ipswich at home. That would be spectacular. In that case, I'm doing the vlog to end all vlogs, I think. But I'm about to close up the stream in a couple of minutes. First of all, I've got a very quick question for you. I'm also going to finish looking at the chat 1 second. I think it'll be great if we win, but if the worst happens and we lose, our players know how to come back from losses. That's very true, because when we've lost this season, we have absolutely battered the next team to come along. We do need to be clinical against Leicester, because we're not going to get that many chances, I don't think. But last question before I end up the stream. What do you guys want to see from the channel? And this is both like a general question and a tomorrow question. Because tomorrow I'm heading over to Leeds to watch the match. So I could do something vloggy if you want. I could do something previewy on the train like I did last time. I could do all sorts. I can't film any of the action on pitch itself, because that is literally not doable if I want to keep anything like a positive relationship with the club, which I do have a little bit occasionally. I've got into the press box, but I can't do any of that. Live content a little bit more is something that I'm considering doing, because my work schedule now makes it very much more possible. I've lost my train of thought there, but like long-term sort of stuff. Like the reason I'm planning the quiz thing is it's a nice little consistent thing that I can do with other creators that sort of builds the community, gets everyone involved. How about studio debate with guests? That's something that I think is good, but I think other people do better. There's a phrase on like YouTube strategy. Well, there's 2 phrases. There is the concept of the yoink and twist, where you take someone's idea and you change it, and then it's your thing, which I think is quite good, because it's something adjusted and modified and fun. But to steal another phrase, I don't want to like bite Just Joe's shit. I don't want to like straight up take an idea, because that feels a little bit dodgy. And considering we have identical audiences, I think a lot of people will be like, hang on a minute, that's a bit dodgy. So I think what I really enjoyed doing was the quiz that we did on deadline day was very fun, which had about 6 or 7 different people in it at different points. That was good. I enjoyed that. As much as Evie occasionally has complained as well, I think she enjoyed it too. Winning tomorrow won't decide anything. I think it decides the momentum, which is what matters. Because although it doesn't decide promotion, for us to go from 2nd to 4th in a weekend would be a little bit off-putting. And from Leicester to go from 12 points clear to potentially 6 is also a problem for them. I'll go for that one. How about videos on Leeds teams or players from the past? That's something that I've considered doing. That is part of the reason I did the Ultimate Guide thing, because I thought it was a fun little bit of content to do. It was something highly edited, a little bit of a different style, fun. But the issue is, and I know that it's going to sound a little bit like Numbers Joe is coming out again, and we all have our opinions on Numbers Joe. But when it comes to that stuff, in terms of like YouTube analytics, it's horrific. Like, I'll have a look through my YouTube studio now. This is where I have to find out if this is stuff that I can show you, or if this is stuff that I definitely cannot show you. Let's have a look. Yeah, so my first most viewed video is transfer news, then transfer news, transfer news, transfer news, transfer news, transfer news, then another transfer news, and that goes all the way down to I'm still going. About the 20-somethingth video, at which point it's this season's championship is broken, here's why. Which I think only did well because it got lots and lots and lots of views from non-Leeds supporters. And as much as like I want to make just the fun stuff, at the moment work is not the most paying thing. And as someone that just got monetized, I'm trying to find something that is like consistent and comfy and stuff like that. So what I'm trying to do recently is do like, if I can, 2 bits of content a day. But I sort of also want to know what you guys think on that, because I don't want to like overstretch things and Can you tell that I overthink things sometimes? Is it really that unsubtle? How about getting Evie to co-host the show? Evie is looking to start her own channel, I believe, at Discourse of Peacocks or something of that ilk. I know it sounds like that and has that vibe. So I believe I will not be claiming Evie's talents for my channel, because that would feel mean. Bob, I've been on before and will be again. Joe will be on with me when I get up and around. Yeah, I love our little community that we've got here. Everyone is happy to be on each other's content, and that makes me really happy. It's very good vibes. Leicester have to lose at least 3 games to have any chance of being drawn into the chasing pack. Do they? Because they have to play us, and they have to play Southampton, and they have to play against 5th and 6th and 9th. It's not the comfiest position for them. They've got a lot of tricky games coming up. I can genuinely see us having a really good shot here. I don't know about QPR being a tough game. But the others, Sunderland and Southampton, absolutely are going to cause issues. Everyone else supported Leeds in the early 70s when I lived in Leicester, so I'd expect a few Leeds fans in Leicester wanting you to win. Good. You should be a Leeds fan as well. Subscribe and I will gradually introduce you with more propaganda. Alternate reality for Leeds, we either don't get relegated from the Premier League or not get relegated from the Championship. I'm not too sure what you mean. And that's not a you problem, that's a me problem. It's been a long day, sorry. And for some reason, we seem to be doing the maths about Leicester being drawn back in, which Bob Saint seems to be agreeing with. Leicester win tomorrow almost guarantees them champions. It definitely helps their argument. A win for us and we're in the mix for first place. Yeah. A win for us pulls Leicester in, takes the momentum off them, and definitely helps our cause. It's dependent on Leeds winning every week, which in reality won't happen, but neither will they. And we just have to do that a little bit more than they do. Video idea, what kind of a what-if video with the players we had at the time? I quite like that idea. I'll see if I can get something written. That's a really good idea. I will see if I know enough. And then if I don't, then I might have to shelve it. But that's a really good shout. Quite like that. Also, I am currently trying to find... There we go. Right, so I don't know how clickable links are in a YouTube chat, but as people have asked and looked, I'm going to pop Evie's YouTube channel link in a couple of times. If you aren't already, you might as well subscribe. I don't think there's anything up there yet, but I'm subscribed. You should be as well. I think it's a good lifestyle choice. It's good for you. But yeah. Ultimately, I'm a little bit confident. I'm also a lot scared. As I said, loads of Leeds fans from Leicester, so one in here isn't a surprise. Very good. I'm glad that we are absolutely everywhere and causing people problems. That's what we do best. Dream Team video could be good. I've considered something like that, like integrated with the quiz, sort of you do a quiz, but also a get to know sort of deal. So, like, we'll do a quiz on someone's season of choice, which I don't know what it'd be for me. I think the second Bielsa Championship season. But then as you go, you'll ask, like, who makes your dream team, stuff like that. Yeah, it's fine. What if we didn't sell Cantona to the Red Scum? We'd end up selling him to someone else. Plus, he doesn't seem like a very good man. Cantona's always seemed a little bit dodgy to me. All games are tricky at this time of season. Teams down the bottom are fighting for survival and often up their game. That is why I think that Ipswich are going to have some problems. Because they've got 20th on the last day of the season, 6th and 7th on the days before it, 8th in the lead up, 23rd. They've got a lot of, on paper, easy games. But in practice, they might not be. You're a good egg, thank you. Thank you very much, Evie. You are equally good egg, but specifically a peacock egg, according to you, Sean. And I might be there tomorrow just trying to arrange things. That would be absolutely spectacular. Bob, I live in Leicester. Wonderful. Been good chatting. Good having you, Bob. Hopefully you can stick around a little bit more. Evie knows more about football than the Sky Sports pundits. Evie knows a hell of a lot about football. So subscribe. She's real good. But then again, most people know more about football than the Sky Sports pundits. That's not doing you down, Evie. That's doing Carragher down. Think you're overthinking it. Have a try at something and see how the video does. Yeah, that's what I do for the most part. But I feel like if I'm like live streaming, I might as well ask. Let's see what you guys think. Subscribe to Evie, as everyone should be. Thank you for the stream. Yeah, I'm going to be ending in a second. Howard Wilkinson's First Division title-winning side. I might give that a quick look. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. If you did, I would massively appreciate you popping a like on the stream. If I could break 50, that would be absolutely wonderful. I know I'm not aiming for the dizzying heights of Joe's several hundreds and thousands, but 50 would be absolutely spectacular. If you're watching on the VOD, that is much appreciated. I don't know how you got an hour and a half through, but congratulations to you. Like, subscribe, comment what you think down below. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. See you later. The best bit is everyone that like watches me consistently knows that I'm just going to do a little added bit. I think the word to comment should be Dewsbury Hall. No, wait, hold on. That's too Leicestery. Victory. That'll do. See you later.